This recent $2 billion raise is going to absolutely wreck $10 billion worth of shorts on MicroStrategy. The Giga Chad, Michael Saylor, is at it again, folks. But just how significant is this Bitcoin play? And will this be the end of the Bitcoin cycles and create the ultimate Bitcoin super cycle? Well, as we can see, Bitcoin is par for the course with all of these 4-year cycles. But just how significant is this $2 billion raise going to absolutely wreck some of these shorts? Because as my buddy Luke Mick had showed earlier, we've got a shit ton of shorts going crazy bananas here with $9.72 billion worth of shorts, where everybody is talking about the MicroStrategy bears being in for a painful short squeeze here in this next year, because everybody has been trying to short MicroStrategy with this share volume increasing by 5% or nearly 4%, excuse me, from the previous month. And this short interest days to cover is less than one, indicating that it would take less than one single day of average trading volume of this nearly $21.5 million shares to cover all of these short positions. So MicroStrategy and the Giga Chad, Michael Saylor, at it absolutely again. And now let's review just what is going on here with MicroStrategy. They are targeting a capital raise of just $2 billion, but this is a part of their $21 billion raise and their $21 billion extension. So their 21-21 plan of capital to raise $21 billion. So this $2 billion is just a fraction, but this capital raise of $21 billion of equity and $21 billion of fixed income instruments, including debt, convertible notes, and preferred stock. Now, this portion is very important right here, this preferred stock. Now, we'll get into all of what that means here in a second, but let's remember what this highlights, folks. Michael Saylor, the Giga Chad himself, is always looking at Bitcoin. He's even showing it, the disconcerting blue lines on the Saylor tracker. So if we go to the Saylor tracker website, it shows just how often Michael Saylor is buying Bitcoin. He's buying it left and right, folks? And even if you look at here recently, he's buying more and more. There's less and less blue lines in between these green dots, which are indicating when Michael Saylor announces his buy. So with all this being said, MicroStrategy is going to use these $21 billion and the majority of this money to go and buy Bitcoin, right? So we all know the Saylor flywheel, the MicroStrategy flywheel that's been absolutely humming, right? It's giving MicroStrategy a chance to enter the S&P 500. It's already in that NASDAQ 100, the top 100 stocks that there are in the tech sector and outside of the Bitcoin, outside of the banking sector. So with all of this, right, we got to remember what my friend, the Peruvian bull, said here, right? The real value of MicroStrategy is not, right, of the Bitcoin play. It's proving that it can be done at a corporate level. And what needs to happen is for larger institutions with actual balance sheet capacity to copy Saylor and send Bitcoin to Valhalla. Okay, I mentioned it earlier, folks, right? What is this preferred stock and why is it significant? Now, let's dive in. I've got a great tweet here from my buddy Dylan LeClaire, friend of the program, explaining just exactly what that is, right? So TLDR here, a preferred stock is a hybrid financial instrument that combines debt and equity, offering fixed dividend payments with no maturity date. That is huge, right? Because not only will MicroStrategy then get a loan, get some money on that, but there's no fixed date on all of this. So on top of all of that, what is also significant about this is that in potential liquidation, they have priority over common stock holders, but they usually lack voting rights. meaning they benefit from more stable income and greater security and dividend payment. But this structure allows the companies to raise capital without diluting voting control. So, what has been a main narrative of MicroStrategy and the benefit of Michael Saylor having majority control over MicroStrategy is that he's been able to implement this Bitcoin strategy and keep it humming, folks. I mean, Michael Saylor is the Giga Chad, right? He is the ultimate Bitcoin bull, where he's been pouring in billions of dollars into Bitcoin and been doing it at a significant rate. So if he were to dilute his company and MicroStrategy to the point where more people could buy up these shares, they would have voting power and limit his ability to buy more and more Bitcoin. Now, let's take a step back here, because Michael Saylor doesn't have the full voting rights of everything, right? He has diluted his own influence when it comes to the voting rights and the significance of this, which is somewhat interesting, right? So he has 30% of equity, a sub 30%, excuse me, but still shouldn't given him the right to vote the control of his favorite company. But the dual shared class structure permitted him to maintain control. So his dominance was ensured thanks to 10 times voting power on Class B compared to Class A. So this TLDR, let's not get too much into the weeds, but it keeps Saylor's voting power very significant, although he doesn't have full voting rights on what to do with MicroStrategy and that balance sheet. So although Michael Saylor and this beautiful, beautiful Saylor tracker that we've got here shows that he just continues to buy up Bitcoin, and those blue lines that we're seeing are getting in between and shorter, it's showing that, Michael Saylor can still implement this policy. He's got a lot of influence when it comes to not only what MicroStrategy does, but other companies as well, right? So he's showing that this is something that can be done, as my buddy Proven Bull said, right? It's for the waiting for larger institutions to get this done. But let's go back and take a deeper dive into this great tweet by Dylan LeClaire. Like I said, friend of the program here, right? So not only is he keeping voting rights, the most important thing to understand is that preferred stock is perpetual. And so there is no lump sum principal repayment. That is also very significant as well. So say at a 5% rate, you are essentially pulling forward 20 years of cash. Let's take that a step further. 20 years full of cash. It's absolutely insane that they're going to be able to use a lot of these traditional financial tools to buy Bitcoin, right? So the preferred stocks are also low volatility. They provide less upside than common equity. So globally, there's about 3,500 issues of preferred stock, over 1 million outstanding. On average, 555 million per issue, equal to 1.9 trillion in aggregate. So if we narrow it down in the following boxes, there's exchange listed perpetual, US listed insurer, 37.8 or 378 million, and the average dividend rate is a wide margin, or a wide dividend of 6.2. So look at who can be the target buyer for this: insurance companies, pension funds, mutual funds, and banks. Now, why is this significant? Why are those groups very, very significant? Well, it's about the moolah, folks. They've got a lot of money. They've got a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. They might not necessarily have the access to Bitcoin just yet, and they can use MicroStrategy as a proxy to get into Bitcoin, right? I mean, we've seen Bitcoin as the best performing stock in the S&P 500, the best performing stock in the NASDAQ 100, and it's not slowing down, folks. I mean, we did just see a giant increase in reaching the all-time high here earlier in November, and we're seeing a little bit of a dip now. But I mean, if you take a step back and look at how much it's up over the entire year, it's beating Bitcoin. Now, I am not a MicroStrategy holder, but I am a majority Bitcoin, but those guys that have been holding MicroStrategy have been whipping my tail because of what MicroStrategy has been able to do and implement. Now, let's revert back to this chart here because all of this is extremely significant with the amount of short data that we are shorts that we have here. The 9.7 billion with a B, folks, billion, the big Billy, are all trying to short MicroStrategy. And in the end, they're going to get burned, right? I mean, we've seen it time and time again on all of these people who keep trying to short MicroStrategy and basically try to call Michael Saylor's bluff. I mean, we've seen it in the past 1 year. If you look and zoom out here, I mean, this is a beautiful looking chart here, folks. We've got MicroStrategy up 13%, it looks like, on Friday. And then we've got it up, well over, I believe it's over 400% or pretty close to it in the past calendar year of 2024. So all this being said, it's absolutely showing that this is a possibility. This is the way to do it. And that these convertible stocks, they're just usually preferred stocks, are just being used in order to purchase more Bitcoin. I think that that's going to continue. And Michael Saylor, at a certain point, cannot be stopped, right? I mean, let's take a look at the chat here. We've got a lot of chats humming here. So we've got, yes, green candle on a Saturday. So thank you guys all for joining me. Appreciate it all night heater. The like has been bruised. I appreciate that, folks. Keep humming it here. We've got the most I think I've ever had in a live chat here, and in watching this, over 200 of you joining me on this green candle Saturday. So LFG, let's go. Show me the data. Show me the data, as me and my buddy Luke like to say, right? We're diving into all this data, the massive amounts of shorts that we're seeing. Show me the data. Luke, where is he at, buddy? I think he's in the back there. I don't know, maybe resting up, drinking some coffees, getting all this. So yeah, I mean, stocks. Is it going to be another GameStop style short squeeze? I guess time will tell at this point. I mean, the short squeeze volume is much greater that we're seeing now in MicroStrategy than when we saw it in GameStop during that famous run. So I think that this is something that could be a possibility. And on top of the volatility that we see with Bitcoin and the massive amounts of increases that we've seen with Bitcoin's price, the amount of Bitcoin that MicroStrategy is holding on top of all of that, I mean, I definitely can see the upside here, folks. So let's actually start to look into the data here of GameStop's short squeeze volume compared to MicroStrategy, because I'm fairly certain that, when I saw this at one point in time, I believe it was greater than, here we go. We can see it right here. That the GameStop volume and the short squeeze might be a little bit comparable to what we're seeing here with I remember, I want to say I saw a chart. Can't find it for you initially off the top, folks, but I do remember seeing a chart comparing Amazon and MicroStrategy and GameStop short squeezing, and seeing the volumes, right? And I'm fairly certain that this is greater than what we've seen this is greater than what we've seen previously. This volume here, this 9.7 trillion, this is the chart, folks. I mean, look at this. It's exponentially raising 4% over a month. And that 4% is something not to be frowned at, right? We're seeing short volumes go from 8.9 billion to 9.7 billion. So we're not talking about a small amount of money, folks. This is continuing to raise up and continuing to do that. And so let's go through Dylan LeClaire's previous tweet again. Let's get back onto it, right? So Dylan LeClaire, why is he important when it comes to this? He's actually looking at how MicroStrategy holding Bitcoin is also very important, because he's doing the same thing with Metaplanet. over in a company in Japan. So he is literally studying MicroStrategy's strategy, Bitcoin holding strategy, in order to implement it himself at another company. So that's why it's very significant. He's got a great thread here, and yeah, I think that this is going to be absolutely insane what we're seeing here. But anyway, MicroStrategy, their BTC strategy, treasury options plus Bitcoin reserves. It looks at the overall macro economy, the technology, inflation, and entropy. Look at this, right? So it goes interest into these MicroStrategy options, MSTX and MSTU, the equity. It looks at the convertible debt, the equity, and the fixed income. So with all of this being said, this is an absolutely great chart and great visual here to show that this Bitcoin, a $1.4 trillion asset class, will continue to raise this $18 billion worth of USD, and it will go into higher volatility and higher leverage, all the way down to lower volatility and lower leverage, continuing this to grow up. So the preferred stocks are the low volatility. So out of this $42 billion worth that MicroStrategy is raising, about $2 billion is going into that, right? So it's showing in the 60-day historically volatility chart of the stock index is about 10% volatility, or 1/10 of MicroStrategy. And this will be the first time that we're seeing what falls under the MSTR dividend category that MicroStrategy has teased in the Q3 earnings that they previously had. So let's do some math here, folks. The value of MSTR call options with the market implied that a volume of 87% based on the reference price of $332 per share MicroStrategy. We have 50% out of the money, right? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Simple math much further. Price today, that's at least 6% of the price per today, 41%, 71%, and 92%. So the tail risk is massive for an indefinite call option on this highly volatility stock. So the path forward is selling the volatility. Do you see that? Selling the volatility. So keeping this volatile is actually the benefit for Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. So continuing to buy more Bitcoin will keep loading this thing up. So let's keep going down. So he can't see everything but right here, right? The volatility is the vitality. So the call options being striked. So but this preferred stock could be a bit different, right? So I'm not going to keep going through this entire stock or this entire thread here. Just wanted to highlight the importance of this. And remember, folks, I mean, like my buddy Peruvian Bull said, this is, showing that MicroStrategy has the is the playbook. It's the best performing stock in the S&P 500. They've been crushing me. If you've just been holding Bitcoin, of course, I just hold Bitcoin, and that's all I do here. So full disclosure, I don't hold any of that, but it is something that has been absolutely crushing Bitcoin and everything else because it is a leveraged play, folks. But something else I noticed my friend Peruvian Bull showed here today. The United Healthcare just denied a claim of one of his patients who had a brain hemorrhage, was in a coma, on a ventilator, and heart failure. Now, one of the biggest issues in the United States plaguing people is the health insurance industry. You have to worry about negotiating with doctors, negotiating with health insurance to see if you could actually be covered. Well, I've got a great solution for you guys where Luke and I have actually partnered up. So many of you guys are in this chat from Luke Mikic. So welcome if this is your first time over here. But Crowd Health is the #1 place for you to get a health insurance alternative where you don't necessarily need health insurance. You can find awesome doctors, negotiate these bills, and fund them through a peer-to-peer funding platform. You don't have to worry about, the healthcare CEO and what happened over there. I mean, we are on YouTube, folks, so I don't want to necessarily give that all away just yet and dive too much into it just yet. But this is extremely big problem in the US, and it'll continue to be. But you know what won't continue to be an issue? MicroStrategy finding money to buy Bitcoin, folks. I mean, look at this chart here. It's a beauty. It's a beauty. We got MicroStrategy continuing to buy up Bitcoin. And this $2 billion stock offer is to bolster its Bitcoin holdings, right? So it's the largest Bitcoin corporate holder, plans to raise another $2 billion through this perpetual stop option. It's a part of this 21-21 plan. And even though Michael Saylor has lost his voting rights, it did not affect Bitcoin and did not affect the Bitcoin price, right? So, I mean, even look, he lost it back at 98K previously, and he lost a little bit of control of that when it entered the NASDAQ, but the dual class structures, separate equity ownership and voting rights as of October 21st, he had over 50%. Now with the new debt raises, he did not have that, right? He that lowered just a little bit, but it's something that we've got some other people here in the chat, right? So buddy Jim here, volatility is vitality is an insane statement, but hey, I mean, I think that's going forward, right? Jim says, as a 63-year-old, my solution is to never go to the medical system for help. I have zero health insurance beyond my investment in myself. Hey, man, I agree with you. That's why I partnered up with Crowd Health. They're a great alternative to that because, that is just some of the issues there. And Cass, thank you so much. 17 likes, 92 in the show. Welcome, everybody. It's absolutely humming. Between here and X, we've got nearly 300 of you in here. And this is awesome. So stocks, subscribe. Thanks for the great show. Thank you guys for coming in here and lighting up the chat. All night heater. So true, Jim. And amazing how similar those two words are. Yeah, it is actually crazy, right? About the volatility and the vitality, right? So let's see how we're humming with all this news in the Bitcoin price. We did have a little bit of a dip, beneath here, but we're having a good day here, folks. Remember, the banks, everything else, they're all closed here on Saturday, but Bitcoin never stops. Right? Bitcoin never stops. We got it humming along at 98.5, just under that 100K mark. And it's something that, we're going to keep humming along here. And Bitcoin is going to continue, right? So I think that this is going to, Michael Saylor is not going to stop, folks. We've got Michael Saylor buying up as much Bitcoin as possible. We've got my friend Luke Mikic in the chat. So what up, Luke, my man? Thank you so much for joining in the chat after his amazing live stream that we had here, folks. 116 watching and only 29 likes. Yeah, come on, guys. Smash that like button for you, boy, over here. We're working hard on this Saturday here, me and Luke trying to do that. Thank you, love everyone. Hey, he did his job, or I'm not sure. Love everyone. Everybody love everybody, right? As my buddy Jackie Moon from Semi Pro says, right? ELE, everybody love everybody. Absolutely humming along here. So the one thing that I do think is very powerful about Bitcoin is also being able to hold in self-custody. Both Luke and I highly agree on this. So not only do we want to show you the data of what we got going on here, but I want to help you guys out, get your Bitcoin off an exchange. Now, the way that I could do that is by sending you to the Bitcoin Way. You guys can go to the bitcoinway.com and you guys can book a free 30-minute consultation by going to the bitcoinway.com. Click book a consultation. They've got a free 30-minute consultation. You can go through all of that. So be sure to go and check those guys out. They can help you get your Bitcoin off exchange. They can help you secure your computer, do all that jazz, and even get a Plan B passport if that's something that you guys are looking to do. But remember, folks, with what Michael Saylor is doing here, this could be the end of the Bitcoin cycles because of this massive short squeeze that they're going to see. It's going to cause corporate FOMO. It's going to cause nation state FOMO. It's going to cause retail FOMO. It's going to cause institutional investors FOMO. I don't think we really truly understand the amount of money that is sitting on the sidelines here, just nipping at the bit to try to get into here. So Thank you guys all for coming into this chat. Smash the like, smash the subscribe button, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.